Although it's painful, the fact that you only need to work on the surface makes it fun enough. To outsiders, Winnie is the kind of serious, dignified, and strict lady from a prominent family, but she is actually surprisingly outgoing, even more so than Helen Keller. Moreover, she was much more obedient than Helene. She would do whatever he asked. Although it was her first time experiencing that kind of thing, aside from being a little awkward at first, her subsequent performance made him wonder if this woman was born for that line of work. It was almost frightening, but it was really fun. Talented players are terrifying. Although he still harbored resentment towards her drunken behavior that night, Perseus genuinely wanted to maintain this cooperative relationship with her for a long time, as long as she doesn't spout nonsense about taking responsibility. After all, the saying an inch longer, an inch stronger applies not only to weapons, but also to body dimensions. As a well-behaved child, he simply couldn't resist this numerical monster. In fact, even if she allowed him to do whatever he wanted, Winnie still had her own principles. According to her, she would do anything except kiss, because she wanted to save her first kiss for the man she truly loved. Perseus didn't care. He was actually a little annoyed by her drinking voice and the way she called out Ivice's name. Even if we can't kiss, it has other uses. And so, the discussion ended, and the two left the apartment one after the other. Perseus returned to the classroom and saw Katie standing next to Helen. Helen sat upright, seemingly sweating slightly. Luna, Ivisa, and Mellifera, they are all here. Chapter 73, Powerful Light Magic. Honey, you're here. As soon as Helen saw him, she ran and jumped into his arms, her voice soft and sweet as she kept whining. Perseus smiled and showered his girlfriend with sweet words, secretly pleased with himself. He saw it clearly. When Katie stood next to her, she was obviously flustered. It's not necessarily fear, but rather a feeling of being overwhelmed. Perhaps the cold and ruthless Miss Kitty can form a kind of restrained relationship with the alluring and passionate Miss Helen. That will be very interesting. After cuddling for a while, Helen looked at Katie and said, "My dear Miss Katie seems to have something to ask you, but she won't say anything when we try to talk to her." Fine. Perseus put his arm around Helen's waist and walked up to Katie. "Where should I sit?" Katie asked. She really has a sense of self-awareness. Perseus looked around at his usual seat and realized that only the one in front of him was left. "Please sit here if you don't mind." "Good." Katie walked to the seat, sat down, and then lay down to sleep. Now his place is truly a garden in full bloom, with beauties that whet the appetite no matter which direction you look. After greeting Mellifera, as usual, Perseus returned to his seat, and Luna immediately followed suit. Helen sat down as well, watching Katie's retreating figure with great interest. "Darling, something interesting seems to have happened between you and Miss Katie. Princess Mirafara, you must be very interested as well, right? Why don't we ask him together?" Mirafara quickly chimed in. Hee, I'm actually quite curious. Perseus, if you don't mind, could you tell us?" "Miss Luna, what do you think?" Luna paused for a moment, then quickly realized, "Yes." "Perseus, tell me. I really want to know how terrifying women can be." "Miss Katie and I are just ordinary friends, of course," Perseus said calmly. "Really? But I heard that you and Miss Kitty's parents recently reached a deal, buying out Miss Kitty's guardianship for 600 gold coins, and even had it legally notarized at notary office." Helen's voice was sweet. "Is that so?" Luna exclaimed in shock. "Perseus, you've bought another woman." "Yes, it's much more expensive this time, a full 600 gold coins, enough to buy 600. Helen replaced the rest of her words with a melodious laugh. Ivisa did not react to this. "Perseus, how could you do this? You already have me." Luna exclaimed indignantly. Helen smiled. "You already have sister Helen and me." Luna continued indignantly. Helen continued to smile. Perseus glanced back. Although Mirafara didn't say anything, the way she looked at him was rather subtle. "It's not what you think," Perseus said seriously. "I did this only to help Miss Kitty. Although I took custody of her, I don't own her. She is still a free person who can act completely independently, and we are just friends." Really, Luna actually believed it, because she was smiling like crazy. Of course it's true, because that's just how it is. Katie isn't a slave. How could she be bought and sold so easily? In fact, his contract with Katie's parents was only a loophole. Legally, she was still the couple's daughter and needed to fulfill her support obligations to them. So even with a contract in hand, if that shameless couple were to come knocking on his door one day, demanding their daughter back, he really wouldn't be able to stop them. This vulnerability must be patched as soon as possible, otherwise the consequences will be dire. Sigh. If only that tailor shop had caught fire someday. I hope that couple hadn't escaped. However, even though this would solve the problem once and for all, he could only hope for an accident, rather than deliberately causing one. It wasn't that he was particularly reluctant, but rather that the couple's noble status made things too complicated. Although they were dirt poor, they were still dukes. Even in their current state of destitution, they could only suffer from hunger and misery, but they could not die. Once someone dies, those in higher positions will inquire about the matter and confirm the true cause of death. If they discover anything suspicious, they will investigate thoroughly. No matter how careful he is, it's hard to guarantee that the investigation won't reach him. On the other hand, the reason why this cannot be done is Katie. Although she may seem cold-hearted and ruthless, those couples were still her biological parents. Could she really be completely indifferent to their life or death? If that couple abused her since childhood and she doesn't understand, he can use his silver tongue to make her completely sever ties with that couple. But the reality is that they did not commit that unforgivable crime. This means he has more to consider. He was quite certain that if he did such a thing and Katie found out, the stubborn girl would do anything to kill him. Losing an ally and gaining an enemy is such a bad deal. So even knowing that trouble would follow, he could only face it in a legal way that would win Miss Katie's heart. Honey, can you come out with me for a bit? I have something I want to tell you alone, Helen said. It would be best if they actually spoke. She made a killing this morning, and Winnie also took a lot by noon. His thing isn't nuclear-powered. Do you really think he's some kind of erotic movie protagonist? Before he knew it, the pressure was mounting, and if things continued like this, he would have no choice but to use magic. He was initially somewhat resistant, feeling that the power didn't truly belong to him. But when faced with a desperate situation, in order not to lose face or dignity as a man, he still has to make choices. In this world, among the 6 existing types of magicians, those who can use light magic are especially beloved. This is mainly due to the healing and strengthening effects of light magic. In the eyes of a powerful light mage, nothing is unenhancing. Therefore, women who are light magicians are often the happiest. With this realization, Perseus followed Helen to the rooftop again. What left Perseus with mixed feelings was that Helen seemed to genuinely just want to talk to him this time. Well, she escaped Aegea's clutches. Darling, you've really made a good deal. You managed to buy such a beautiful girl for a mere 600 gold coins. Helene said with a beaming smile. I've already told you it's not what you think. Does it matter now? With Miss Katie's beauty, don't tell me you would hand her over to another man. I wouldn't believe it if you said that, Helen said, pursing her lips. After all, you wouldn't even let go of an old woman like Winnie, who is only good for having big breasts. Just like that, it's been exposed? That shouldn't be the case. He and Winnie showered together before going out, so there shouldn't be any smell. Even if Helen knew he went to Winnie's apartment, that doesn't mean she could be so sure. So it's a scam. Darling, what nonsense are you spouting? Perseus asked helplessly. I'm talking nonsense. Huh, do you still have any stock left? Helene said dismissively. Perseus smiled. He knew it would turn out this way, whether he wants to or not. This world is truly cruel and heartless. Optimization. Chapter 74, Her Strangeness. Darling, I knew I had misunderstood you. Helen nestled happily against Perseus. Perseus smiled faintly, but his lips couldn't help but twitch slightly. You call me out just to test me? He asked. No, it's because I was a little hungry just now. Helen looked up at him with innocent eyes, her pink tongue licking the corner of her mouth. I'm full now. Perseus's eyes were somewhat ferocious. He was burning with rage. Let's get down to business. The date for Lord Kutu's investiture ceremony has been set for 5 days from now. Oh, I see. Perseus nodded. 5 days is fine, but he was worried that making Katie wait too long would make her doubt his abilities. 2 days after the investiture ceremony, he took Katie to see Kutu. It took exactly 1 week in total. So, who do you plan to attend the ceremony with? Helen smiled. Me or Luna? I'm attending this ceremony. Perseus frowned slightly. Such a grand occasion was completely beneath his status. The last ball where the crown prince was choosing his consort could be said to have been specially arranged by the emperor to test him. But if we arrange it again now, it would be somewhat abnormal. Why do you look a little nervous? Helen looked at him intently. What do you mean? Perseus chuckled. After all, what right do I have to attend an event like this? Just because I'm your boyfriend? There's nothing wrong with that, Helen said. You're my boyfriend. When we get married, you'll be a big shot in the Lammander family. Our child will be the new Duke of Lamanter. As the father of a duke, you'll certainly be eligible to attend another duke's investiture ceremony. That's really well reasoned and supported by evidence. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't imagine what that day would be like. Although it sounds pretty good. This is just a theory. Others may not agree with it, Perseus said quite rationally. And what about you? Helen asked. Have you thought about the day we get married and have children? Of course, Perseus replied without hesitation for a second. Helen smiled sweetly. And you? You try to turn the tables on him. Just like you. That's puzzling. That damn woman is so sweet and cunning. I can't resist her. Darling, you're still worried about whether you'll have the chance to attend the ceremony. Let's skip that and assume you do have the opportunity. Who would you like to bring? Helen asked. Ivisa. Of course I'll bring you, Perseus smiled. Of course I'm happy to hear you say that. But what about little Luna? If you don't stay with her, she'll be heartbroken. We're just friends now. Then why don't you take advantage of this public occasion to declare your ownership of her to everyone? Otherwise, you might regret it. Helen blinked. Regret? Have you forgotten? This time, it was her father who was granted the title, and he's a duke. Do you know how powerful the dukes of our empire are? Helen Eanes said, her eyebrows dancing with excitement. Just as amazing as my duchess, Perseus said with a laugh, putting his arm around her waist. You're so sweet-talking, Helen Eanes said coquettishly, then sighed with melancholy. Although our family is doing well now, it's still not as good as it was at its peak. We can't compare with a rising star like Lord Kudu, who is gaining momentum. So what? My duchess is the most powerful. Perseus bent down and gently bit her ear. I finally calmed down, so don't play with fire, okay? Helen said seriously. Perseus didn't care. He had light magic, and he was invincible. In short, a newly promoted noble like Lord Kutu is a high branch that many people yearn to climb. As his daughter, Luna will naturally attract the attention of many talented young men. And they're all your rivals in love, you know? Ah, well, there's always a way, Perseus said. Why aren't you worried at all? Why are you so confident in yourself? Otherwise, Perseus shrugged. For things we can't change, we can only try to work on ourselves. Confidence is very important. I really want to see you get anxious and upset over a woman. Helen muttered. He was with Ivisa last night. I'm a very easygoing person, Perseus said calmly. But if one day you could cry your heart out for me, I would be so happy I would die on the spot, Helen said. Perseus didn't know how to respond. He doesn't mind crying his heart out. If necessary, he'll burst into tears on the spot, crying more loudly than if his whole family had died. But he doesn't want Helene to die right now. So when he talks about death and life, he can't help but get a little unhappy. People can't help but take those overly sensitive words as omens. That's why curses are so vicious and hateful. Even if I know it won't happen, I still don't want to hear about it. Don't say such silly things again, or I'll spank you. Perseus gently pinched her pink cheek. It's not a good idea to spank here, Helen said shyly. Perseus kissed her lips with lightning speed. He rarely initiated a kiss with Helen, but this time he couldn't help but want to do it no matter what. So he did just that. As the long kiss ended, Helen nestled in his arms, muttering, I hate it. Don't you like it? I really like it, but I haven't rinsed my mouth yet. Hee, it's okay. As a philosopher aptly put it, any man who is afraid to kiss a girl he's intimate with is an incorrigible scumbag. Perseus is a scumbag, but not quite to that extent. Honey, can you come to my place tonight? Luna ruined our plans yesterday, but it seems like it benefited you too? Huh. Undeniably, Perseus felt a sense of lingering satisfaction. Last night, no matter what, it's never good to leave regrets. I only ask one thing of you. Don't ask me for anything, just tell me what you need, Perseus said softly. Then you'll agree to whatever I say, she asked pitifully, as long as it doesn't violate my principles. So, is it against your principles to not be able to spend just one night with Miss Ivisa? Perseus felt a slight tremor in his heart. Don't go home tonight, okay? Helen spoke very, very softly, her tone somewhat humble. This is very unusual. No matter what, she was always a very proud girl. Even if she sometimes deliberately said things that were very girly and coquettish, he could always tell. But this time is something big about to happen that he doesn't know about? Good. He spoke before he could think too much. No matter how important the matter is, he wants to understand it fully. Chapter 75,